All right. Now, a lot of Aussies love a flutter, whether on the pokies, the horses, or the casino, or even on sport. Now, I've got to tell you, I'm not much of a gambler myself, but I'd bet that most people see it as a bit of harmless fun. However, there are real dark sides to gambling, and that's what governments all over the country are trying to address. In New South Wales, there's a proposal for cashless gaming where pokie players would have to use a registered card before having a punt. It's like a licence to gamble, and it's claimed the benefits are that it will stamp out money laundering, prevent players from losing everything. I've got to tell you, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think we should need government approval on how we spend our hard-earned money on legal goods and services. I do have a different perspective when it comes to welfare recipients who are given money to survive, not to spend on pokies, cigarettes or alcohol. But that's me. And that's not to say gambling isn't a huge problem for some. It is. One publican I spoke to expressed his concern about the gambling apps that seem every young person has on their phones these days. He told me stories of his staff who found themselves in financial dire straits as a result of punting on the apps. But others say a move to restrict the ability to gamble will simply drive punters into the arms of illegal casinos and underground betting groups. One man who's had a lot to say in this space is the crime editor at the Daily Telegraph, Morri. He joins me now. Mark, there's a lot to unpack here, but what are your thoughts on the suggestion that cashless gaming is actually going to stop crooks from money laundering?
Well, to be fair, with the poker machines, they aren't laundering their money as much as just spending their illegal money. Because to put $1 million through a poker machine will take about 40 hours. So the guy's making the big money, but they are spending all their money on there. And if they can't spend their illegal money legally, they'll find other ways to spend it. And there'll be entrepreneurial crooks out there that I think we'll start seeing the old-fashioned illegal casino where these guys can spend their money without scrutiny. And that money will just be circulating through the underworld.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your article in the Telegraph today, that we're already seeing a surge in illegal gambling through WhatsApp group bookies. Are these the SP bookies of yesteryear that were a part of a legendary group growing up? And do you think this could make it a much bigger issue for police if punters can't get a bet on legally?
Yeah, I do. In fact, most of those there's this one particular WhatsApp group, which is for very, very high-end, big punters around, and I'd say probably Australia. And it's because they can't get on either the big corporate bettors because they won't let them, or because they don't want to have all their details shared that way financially. So it's the return to the SP bookie. Now, as scrutiny grows with all of this, you will find maybe medium-sized entrepreneurial guys saying, you can bet with me, I'll give you the same odds as the bookies, but come to me. But again, then the problem will become that these guys will allow credit and, which doesn't happen with the TAB. And also they have ways of collecting their money that is not exactly the way that TAB or a bank would go and collect money legally. So they, can lead to violence, which is what we saw in the old days. The fact that something's not regulated sometimes can lead to not very good outcomes. But it's a major problem. We do have a lot of problem gamblers, but we also have a lot of crooks using that money to spend. So we've got to weigh up what's exactly going to happen.
What do you make, though? Yeah, okay, so if we rule out the money laundering claims or you take them with a grain of salt, what do you think about the effectiveness of cashless gaming for the individual? I have this in principle objection to it. You shouldn't need a license to spend your own money on legal goods and services, but do you think it would be an effective way to help problem gamblers?
I think it probably would, especially when they're talking about caps, although you could imagine people that are very committed to their addiction will find ways around it. And again, there'll be people there trying to figure out ways to exploit it. They'll be offering different ways. But I think it will probably help the percentage of those gamblers who have got a big problem, who aren't, crooks or anything, who have limited funds to do it. They'll actually have to start explaining it to their loved ones, where their money's going. They'll be able to see it on bank accounts. So it'll make it a lot harder for those problem gamblers, whether they'll then find these illegal casinos, and that could create problems for them because there'll be people there offering them credit, which the local publican's not allowed to do. They're not allowed to lend money. So, there are some problems with bringing in these cashless cards. And everyone's doing it for a very, very good reason. But it hasn't really been tried, so we don't know what are the knock-on effects. So as I said, I play them, and I'm very limited in what I spend on them because I don't like them. They've taken over parts of our community, but they're just a fact of life now that we have to try and manage.
Yeah, it certainly is, and governments are trying to navigate through the field. Mark Morri, thank you very much for your time tonight and really enjoyed your articles today.